I'm not practicing or saying anything or coaching anybody around anything that I haven't dealt with myself. Because I've worked in corporate America for so many years, I was one of those people. And I look back on that and I think, oh my gosh, I really was operating in this just terrible, dysregulated state of mind half the time, and I have such calm decision making, creative decision making now because I've allowed myself that space to just chill out once in a while. It's been great.
You're listening to The People of Work, the podcast that dives into the real stories behind what people do for a living and how work shapes who we are. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The People of Work. I'm your host, Amy Graves. Super excited to have Marci Coppola here today with us with Seshen Coaching. I'm thrilled to have this conversation with Marci, partly because I think that the work she's doing is transformative, and I can't wait to talk about that. But also because Marci has an HR background. So like we were just discussing before we hit record that we're both just HR misfits, or we're going to start calling ourselves the un-HR people. So we are here to dig in, talk about all the things. Don't know where the conversation is going to take us, but I can't wait. And we're happy to have you here. Marci, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. And I love free flowing conversation. So let's just dive in and see where we go.
Let's do it. I like to take things back because this story is about the journey and pivots we make along the way. So I want to take it all the way back and talk about Marci as a young person. You can decide what age, but I am interested in your first job, your first introduction to work. What was the conversation around work in your home growing up?
When I first got to college and I started studying, I realized very quickly, I was like, oh, I'm going to drive my parents nuts because I had so many interests in life. And holistic wellness and fitness and all these things were what spoke to me first. So I started to go down the path thinking, oh, I'll do personal training for a little while. I'll get maybe physical therapy. And then I was like, oh, no, wait, maybe I want to do psychology. And then no, wait, maybe. And so I remember my dad being like, you need to pick something. And rightfully so, right? They're, helping me and supporting me at the time. And so I remember that was my first introduction to knowing that I had the type of brain that wanted to try so many different things. And the root of it was holistic wellness. But, what started to happen is that hustle and grind culture was within my household. My dad did not have a glamorous upbringing and he didn't come from a lot. And so he wanted to give my brother and I the life that he didn't have. And he really wanted better for us than what he had, which I wholeheartedly respected. And you could tell like it came through in his heart-led messages to us. But what happened was that societal conditioning around that grind started to really infiltrate my thoughts around what success looked like. So I graduated college and I was working multiple jobs and I was thinking, oh, I'll, stick with holistic wellness. But then that thought of, yeah, but what about making money, started to enter. And that's what I would say was the pivot is it pushed me into that corporate world and that hustle and grind mentality. And that's really what started is then next thing you know, I'm in recruiting and I'm in the corporate setting and then HR grabbed me. And I remember having that thought like, well, at least it's keeping me within the psychology realm. Well, at least it's scratching the itch of things that I do love when it comes to working with people. I really got sucked into that hustle and grind culture. That's what happened.
Was your dad saying you're going to go to college? Or was it like, what do you think you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
Or get a job right after high school and make money? Like, what was the message you were hearing?
He wanted us to go to college. Like he really wanted us to get an education. And my dad put himself through school. My dad worked and put himself and got his education. And then he went further and even got his master's. It just wasn't within the family. Like he really was the first to trailblaze that. And I was so proud of him. I remember thinking like, my dad's a badass. Like this is great, And so that was my blueprint. And he wanted, again, like it kept this message around, I want better for you guys. I really want you to understand this is the way the world works. And he really worked a lot of hours. He was constantly hustling. He was in sales and marketing. He traveled a lot. And that's what I saw growing up was that if you wanted to be successful in life and earn a living, you had to work hard.
Do something that you love and you're passionate about, but you also have to pay your bills and put food on the table, right?
Yes. And so that was like my first intro. And what's interesting too is I was such a creative child. when I was moving, I found these short stories that I wrote as a kid and poems that I wrote as a teenager. And so it reminded me of how creative I was back then. And I sort of squashed that and allowed myself to go down that path of going into corporate America where there's rules and red tape and
But if you want to make money and be successful, right? What we think successful looks like, whatever that is, right?
Absolutely.
It's that societal kind of push that you got to go into corporate America and run the race. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that that's not a great place to be, because for a lot of people, that's exactly where they should be and they want to be. I work in corporate America. I have for many years. It's blessed me in so many ways, and it's made me a very well-rounded individual, but it's not for everybody, right?
It isn't. And the other thing is, I often say too, is that I have no regrets because I learned about myself. And even though it was a full circle moment, because I got to this place of then deciding, well, I don't know if this is for me long term anymore, but I have no regrets because I think about often what it gave me, those experiences it gave me, how it helped me learn more about myself, the people that I got to work with. And so I have zero regrets.
How did you make a decision, and what was the final decision that you made to major in college? And by the way, where'd you go? Where'd you go to college?
I went to Rutgers and I chose psychology. And it's funny because I went back to Rutgers and I'm wrapping up my MBA in strategic leadership. So shout out to
Great
Rutgers.
School.
Great school.
Great school.
They keep taking my money, but
That's right.
but I really loved my time in college, and the aspect of human design, the way humans function, mindset, energy, psychology, it fascinates me. So that's why I felt strongly that working in human resources, like I said, it scratched that itch. I was like, oh, I get to work with all these different types of teams. And the company that I worked for moved me around a lot. They gave me these opportunities to try different parts of the organization.
We often say at Bell Technologics, where I'm at, we say we're all in sales and we're all in recruiting, because it truly isn't recruiting. I mean, it's sales. It's sales, right? So yes, I hear you. It is that I've never heard it called smile and dial, but
smile and dial.
So many people cut their teeth on the smile and dial. The tricky part about smile and dial, though, is it's often commission based. So you get a taste of dollars that is a little tough to walk away from if you decide to go into more of a generalist type of an HR role. You almost kind of feel like you're starting over again, not from an experience perspective, but from a financial perspective. Yes. As an entry-level HR job that's going to want you to have a kind of a robust HR background, they'll gladly take people out of the smile and dial agency type roles, but there's a lot to learn, and you're not commissioned anymore. So it's a different, way different salary experience.
It was, and it was definitely a change, but I liked the stability of it. And I liked the opportunities that it gave me, because I think I got burnt out just doing the same thing every day. And that's when so from college, trying to figure out, could I do holistic wellness, personal training, going into talent acquisition and working within agencies. And then that led me to corporate America with working a more corporate HR job versus, like I said, that smile and dial of constant fast pace, because there I didn't feel I was developing long-term relationships. It was just, you place people in a job, you move on, you move on. And I was like, I want more than that.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your time at J&J. You moved out of staffing, kind of real fast paced, people placement, talent placement. What was the first role you took at J&J?
It was talent acquisition. I worked with commercial leaders, sales and marketing leaders in the consumer division at the time. And I did that for a few years. And I realized that I wanted to expand more into HR. And I liked the idea of being a business partner with HR solutions. That's what I said. I was like, I feel like I'm at the table with you guys. I just specialize in HR. And so that's ultimately what led me down the HR path.
I just recently shifted the nomenclature of our talent acquisition function, which we've been calling recruiting at Bell Technologics for many, many years. And I just recently shifted that over to talent acquisition and talent advice, like the title being a talent advisor, right?
Love that.
Because what I see and have seen for a long time, and just apparently I'm late to the party in terms of acting on it, but here we got there, is really saying, you know what, this talent on this team, they're not just out here sourcing resumes and recruiting, like what we think of standard recruiting. They
Yes.
really are advisors. They know our business. They know our operation. They know the kind of talent in terms of knowledge, skills, and abilities that you need that's going to help you accomplish your goals on that particular team and within the business. And they really are advisors. And it was, what's so great is that it's an easy sell when you're changing the name to talent acquisition if you have the right people in the roles, because their client, their internal client, as a hiring manager, for example, or the leader of a business unit, they're already engaging the talent acquisition team as advisors.
Yes.
They're already saying, hey, what do you think about this? And I really need this skill set. And our team can say, hey, if you want this, here's what we're seeing in the market. And it's just not a, hey, here's a resume. Yes. Do you like it or not? Yes or no? Let me go find more. It's so much more than that.
It really is.
You get it. And then I know J&J
do.
approaches talent acquisition like that as well.
And that's why I ended up leaving that agency setting to go into J&J's environment, because that's what I wanted. I was like, well, I don't want to just make these fast placements or stare at 200 resumes on a daily basis. I actually want to help people find a place where they can feel really good because it matches everything that they said that they wanted. And to understand the ins and outs of a company dynamic, it's fun. You really get to understand, what that business strategy looks like. And then it becomes a marriage. Okay, here's your business strategy. And now we can meet with the talent strategy, and it's a nice marriage between the two. So I did really love it for several years, and I worked around some really amazing people. So I have zero regrets, and I will always have love for J&J and for what J&J did for me.
Yeah, it's a fantastic company. We both know one of my close friends, your close friend, Latoya Davis, who has spent many years at J&J, and she's now over at Kimberly-Clark and spent some time on this show with me not too long ago. And she's wonderful, but also speaks just very positively about J&J. So shout out to J&J for being a great employer,
100%
for everybody, but for HR people specifically. So
yes.
We love that. I really want to talk about what you're doing now, because I am so intrigued. This is the kind of stuff that we could nerd out on for hours. We're going to give ourselves 30 minutes to nerd out on it or something like that today, but we got to dig in. So tell me first, before we talk about the very specific details about your coaching business, I want to go back a little bit and talk about where you were, like what was the mind frame when you started thinking about, is J&J, I've been here 12 years or 11 years or however long you'd been there when you started having this desire, this kind of, this itch, right? So talk to me about how you were walking through that, navigating that, and when you decided to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I would say, it's interesting. It started during the pandemic, and I was working remote, and I was working with global teams, and I joked, I was like, I feel like I'm HR in a box, because I was like, this is all they say. Hi, I'm your HR partner, and I didn't get to travel. I didn't get to meet any of them in person. And it was a big challenge for me, but a great one, because I had to really effectively help these teams navigate during a pandemic, during a time of uncertainty. And I had leaders that really needed help around helping them truly lead during times of transformation. So what I started to notice was I really came online, almost felt myself energetically coming online when I was coaching a leader through difficult time periods. And I was like, wow, I'm getting really good at helping other people get to their sense of clarity. How about me? and that I realized there's something missing. And so that was when it started. It started around 2020, where I started getting the itch of, I have all these areas in life where I'm passionate and things that I really love to do. And some of the aspects of HR just wasn't feeling fulfilling for me anymore. There's operational side of things and things that we were doing. Although I loved where I was and the people that I was working with, I was like, wow, I'm starting to feel a little bit misaligned with the type of work that I was doing. And I hung in there for a few more years because, again, I loved J&J and I loved the people that I worked with. So it was a very difficult decision in the end. I got to run a veterans leadership development program. I got to work as the head of HR for our neuroscience division and work with some amazing people. There was just this voice that just kept coming up saying, that you want more, that you're ready for your own business, your own way of life, your own inner alignment to come online again. And that's when it started to happen. And it was keeping me up at night, honestly.
Yep.
It really was.
If it's keeping you up at night, you can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
It seems almost criminal to not answer the calling. You know what I mean? And respond to
Absolutely.
your internal desire, right?
Absolutely. And here I am coaching leaders because it started, I mean, I've been coaching for years. I just was doing it within the HR umbrella in a company, but I've been coaching for a very long time. And
Mm-hmm.
here I am helping leaders align to their truth and what they want out of life. And so I was like, well, I gotta walk the walk, talk the talk myself. I have to actually do this for myself too, right? So it kept coming up for me. It really did. And I realized that the performance reviews, the titles, the things that I was chasing, although externally it looked amazing, internally it wasn't satisfying me anymore.
Yep. You can only chase that stuff for so long, I think, especially
Yeah,
when you're meant for something bigger and deeper, whatever that is, right?
absolutely.
So, I
Yeah.
can't wait to talk about Seshen coaching.
Yeah.
Tell me, I want to understand the timing of this. Did
Yeah.
you develop Seshen coaching prior to leaving? Obviously, you had the concept, you knew you were going to do it, right? So I'm
Yeah.
imagining you would like test it out, make sure it's going to be, fruitful, and you're going to be able to, of course, feed yourself and pay your bills
Right.
and all those things. So I'm interested about the actual transition from J&J to your coaching business, and when you pulled that trigger and what led you there. And I also want to talk about the name.
Yes, absolutely. So it's interesting because people ask me this a lot, and I say it wasn't this lightning bolt moment. It was almost like this quiet unraveling that started for me, where I was looking at my life and starting to realize that I've built a lot of my decision based on the foundations of external drivers and people pleasing and doing things that I quote thought I should be doing versus what I really wanted to do. So it's funny because the name came to me and I started studying energetic healing and energetic alignment and mind, body, soul. I started to geek out a lot around the science of change and how humans react to change. I got certified in change management and I started to realize I was like, wow, I really am a nerd for both. I feel like it's the bridge between the practical and the spiritual, stuff that people think is woo woo, right? Whereas me, I'm like, no, there's science behind this too. So I started to geek out around both. And I realized that's what I wanted. I wanted mind, body, soul as a business. And that quiet unraveling started where I just felt, if not now, when? I mean, I always kept
And
saying,
if
oh,
not me, who?
exactly. And
Right?
and I kept saying, maybe this is my retirement plan, maybe this is down the line. But then I kept thinking to myself, but why do I wait for that? What is that actually doing for me to have that mindset of, oh, I'll wait till later? And what is later? What does that even look like? So it started off on the side where, to your point, I was like, let me just advertise, let me see who comes to me. And it's funny, right? And I joke and I say this all the time. It's almost like the universe puts you through the paces so that you can learn from your experiences, you can grow, you can gain this knowledge and this skill set, and then you turn around and you help others. You're sending a ladder down for others and saying, here's how I did it. And those are the types of clients that I seem to be attracting, the ones that are going through those transformations, that are at a crossroads in their life. And so it started to gain traction. And I finally said, if I'm going to do this right, I got to go all in. It was scary at first, of course. You meet fear in the face when when you're making a big shift in your life. But I often ask people, what choices honor who you're becoming, not who you've been? And that's what I had to ask myself. What are my choices that really are going to honor where I'm going and who I want to be? And it kept coming back to, Marci, you got to go all in on this. You're meant to
Yeah,
do this.
that's right. When did you leave J&J?
It's actually only recent. I want to say, I think it's only been like 9 months, 8 or 9 months.
So yeah, pretty recently.
Yeah, it's pretty
Okay, so
recent.
nine months in,
Yeah.
full blown entrepreneur running your company. Tell me overall, 9 months in, how's it going?
It's going amazing.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too, is the one thing that I'm noticing is that you can have all the plans in the world. You could be like, oh, I'm going to plan out everything. When you surrender to it and you just let it flow and you just allow it to be what it is, I'm getting types of clients that I didn't think that I would. And that is what's been the most fun for me. So to go back to who that kid was, who that teenager Marci was, around wanting to do many different things and not wanting to feel pigeonholed, I'm getting it now because the irony is I have leaders of all different levels coming to me, veterans, people who are doing some amazing things within the spiritual community who need extra assistance. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty awesome. I have a diverse client group and now I get to geek out over different things.
That's funny because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, who is your ideal client? But it sounds like you've got such a wide variety. So did you go into this thinking you had an ideal client and then you learned that maybe you don't have an ideal client?
I did.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I was like, oh, well, as a female who, is trying to do this from an entrepreneurial standpoint, who has had high levels of leadership, who has, I've been a people leader in my past. I was like, I really probably will resonate a lot with women who are women in leadership, and because I've coached a lot of female leaders. But then I laughed because I was like, hold on a second, you've also coached a lot of veterans and a lot of men, within that community. So I started to realize, I was like, girl, I don't think you have a niche. I think you need to be open. And that's ultimately what I've allowed myself to do. But if you were to ask me specifically, hey, Marci, do you have an ideal client? My ideal client is the person that is going to come to me and realize that don't come to me unless you're ready to transform your life. The ideal client is somebody that is like, I am ready. I'm willing to go all in, and we are going to work through this transition in my life or what I'm facing. People who need to be so clear on their goals, and they're like, Marci, I need help with an action plan. I truly need somebody that's going to hold me accountable. Those are the people that end up coming to me when they are so ready, and they know that when they come to work with me, it's like, get in, guys, we're leveling up in here.
That's right. That's right.
It.
And they're ready to do the work, not just let me pay you the fee and meet with you X number of times over X span of time. And you are going to tell me what I need to do and I'm going to do it. And it's like, no, the actual work is with you, the client. And I'm here as a guide. And I'm going to ask you some tough questions to kind of get you thinking about some really important things to help you get to where you want to be. I love the work you're doing. It's interesting because we, again, both of us HR backgrounds, HR practitioners currently and in your previous life. And, we talked about this before we got on here, but it's like, I get annoyed by traditional HR type of things. So as an example, I get annoyed by like what feels like check the box type of, I'll just say language like culture. Now, obviously the word culture is an important word. And we understand what we mean when we're addressing that. But oh my gosh, can we please, I am begging, can we please find, I don't have the answer. Okay. I'm just going to admit that right now, but can we please, as a function or just as business leaders, I don't care who comes up with it. Can we come up with a new word? It loses so much meaning. It's words like culture, vulnerability, like, I like the concept. I get it. I'm 100% in on the concepts that are behind these words. Yes. These words have lost their meaning. And 100% agree. I swear, I'm an HR person, but when I hear an HR person say something culture, I'm like,
oh yeah, it used to drive me crazy. And
please.
And that's ultimately the other driving factor for me is I just get so tired of feeling performative. I was like, I just want to be authentic. I just want to be me. And I understand that companies have specific ways of working and I get that. And I wholeheartedly respect that. But you get to this exhaustion point where you're just like, can we just honestly define what we're saying? These word salads have to go because I remember I used to sit into meetings sometimes and, I would hear these word salads or these just buzzwords that we would use. And I'd look around the room and I would see people nodding and I'm like, but what are we actually saying? What does it mean, guys? So I'm with you. I used to cringe sometimes with some of the corporate jargon I was using on a daily basis.
And I think that it plays over into the work you do too, because you mentioned this a little earlier, but I understand that people who don't understand the kind of work you do could think, oh, this is just some wonky, what do you mean some mind, body, soul stuff? No, really, like if you understood what you said earlier was the science behind it. This is real shit, guys. Like this really is real. I think that that's so impactful and important. So how are you
It is.
taking work that can be deemed energy healing. What the hell are you
Yeah,
talking about? How do you take
exactly.
work like that and words like that and
Yeah,
really drive home the value and purpose and intention that it can make on particularly your client, right?
absolutely. I often joke and I say, when I talk to clients who are interested in energy healing work, and I've had a lot of people who've been curious about it and they're like, oh, actually, I kind of want a session. I want to see what it does for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watch a client be so calm, and it's like you watch, like their nervous system just like calms down.
Mm-hmm.
And then that mind chatter shuts off. And next thing you know, they're getting all these answers. And like, actually, I think, oh, this is coming to me. And then I'll have a client come back to me the next session. They're like, Marci, I just took like 5 pages of notes. I journaled for, a few hours and all these things were coming to me, these ideas. I'm like, notice now the difference between when you're making decisions or when you're thinking about your goals, when you're in a state of peace and calm versus when your cortisol levels are spiking through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the difference between those two decisions. And it's like,
Absolutely.
oh, I'm like, that's what energy alignment is. It doesn't have to be mystical. It could
Right.
it could be a very practical approach to saying,
Because you know, Marci, what people are thinking, right?
Of
If they
course.
don't have, they're thinking, get out the sound bowls. I don't
Oh,
know.
I know.
I just did that like a mixing, like I was baking a cake. I don't know if that's what sound bowls really look like, but
Yeah.
sound bowls and like, I don't know, I got to have my hippie wear on or whatever.
Exactly.
But the truth is, it's so much more.
It's so much more than that.
It's so much more than that. Yeah.
It's so much more than that. I even notice a difference in myself. Like I'll wake up in the morning, I meditate for about 15, 20 minutes just to clear my mind. And like at lunch, I'll go for a walk because where I live, there's, a nice nature path. And then I'll come back and I'm like, oh, I just had an idea for something. And then I laugh. I'm like, gee, I wonder why I was able to come up with this idea. Maybe because I was calm versus being a complete psycho that's, funneling their salad down their throat for 15 minutes because I only have a 15-minute lunch break and I have to hurry up and turn around and grab this phone call. And I started noticing a pattern. I was like, wow, we really are not making the best decisions when we're operating on this high stress, just crazy mentality of, constant go, go, go. And so it's funny because I watch that and I invite the skepticism. I like it. I'm just like, curiosity is an awesome thing. Just allow yourself to be curious. But I don't try to convince anyone. I just say, just notice how your body feels when you're in those two states. Just notice it.
Absolutely.
And pay attention to how you function in life. Pay attention when you're a high level executive and you're running on barely any sleep and your cortisol levels are spiking through the roof. And then you walk into a room and there's a big decision you have to make. How do you feel in that moment? Do you feel great? Chances are the answer is no.
Right, right. Most people don't even take the time to really know how they feel in that moment because they're busy scarfing down the salad. They're triple booked on their calendar.
Yep.
They're apologizing to this person because I can't come to your meeting because I am double booked over here. So then that gives me stress because now I don't want you to feel like I'm not caring about the meeting or you're on the back burner. You're not important, but I can't be in 2 places at once. So that's stressful. And we just continue this pattern all day long.
It's a cycle and it's this loop that you constantly are putting yourself in. And I've been there. And so that's the thing. The beauty of it is I'm not practicing or saying anything or coaching anybody around anything that I haven't dealt with myself because I've worked in corporate America for so many years. I was one of those people. And I look back on that and I think, oh my gosh, I really was operating in this just terrible, dysregulated state of mind half the time, and I have such calm decision-making, creative decision-making now because I've allowed myself that space to just chill out once in a while. It's been great.
How do you think, I wonder how we could, and I'm sure a lot of your clients are work, in corporate America, but how do you take somebody that's living that life, right? This is what we do all day long. We just live by the calendar. We're moving things around all day. We're shoving a salad down our throat in the 20 minutes we have that I blocked on the calendar for focus time that did not get focus time at all. It got ran over by something else, right? Yeah. How are you like getting through to those people that this kind of work, I'm just picturing the skepticism because so much of that doing we equate to our value and it feels performative at times, but I'd say it's even like it's productivity, right? It's how busy am I? I can get a little bit of my worth, how I view my worth through my my productivity and my busyness, which is such a fallacy, by the way. But
I know.
I'm curious how you are taking a person like that and then add on top of the fact that they're probably skeptical about energy work.
Right.
How are you getting through to them that this is good for them?
Yeah. And that's the thing is I approach it in a very practical sense when I work with the leaders that are working in corporate America. If I come at them and say, oh, actually, here's what happens when you're balancing this, or, this chakra system is racing and I'm not going to say that.
Right.
I'm going to actually speak to them very practically because I understand their world. And I'm going to say, let's talk about your most recent outcomes. How did you arrive at those decisions? What were you doing when you made that decision? What was the feedback you received? And what starts to happen is they start to realize with me is that their inner world and their outer world is not matching. And we have to get to a place of that inner alignment, because then your outer world will start to match your inner truth. And it's like, who do you want to even be? And we always start there. I'm like, let's start at the basics. Like, who are you and what do you want out of life?
I don't think a lot of people ask that question of themselves. They just go. We just go.
They don't. I will be the first to tell you, a lot of my clients, when I force them to slow down for a minute, I said, you came to me with 25 different goals. We're going to actually do something that's going to make you radically uncomfortable. And I'm going to hit the pause button and we're going to spend time on you first. And you watch the spark come back online when you work with somebody where they have somebody that actually radically focuses on them for a minute. Because a lot of these high-level executives, they don't get that luxury anymore. They don't. That's why they say it's lonely at the top, because they don't have somebody that's actually working alongside of them to coach them, to help them, to say, hold on a second, we have to focus on you first. And you need to be your best self so that you show up in the world as your best self. And then people will start to notice that. The next thing you know, the speeches that you give, right? The messages that you put out there, the decisions that you make will start to resonate with your inner truth, and people will start to look at you differently. They're like, wow, this is a leader that's actually authentic. This is a leader that is making decisions that have an amazing impact for the organization and for my life. And people will follow you more. It inspires more followership. But I agree with you. We don't do that enough. So this is why I say to people, you need a coach. You need somebody that can assist you. I got one myself. I put myself through the paces as getting a coach. And it was amazing for me.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny you bring that up, because I was going to ask that question, because I think that's another important element of it is coaches need coaches too. Right. We know I'm in HR. I had an executive coach for myself like 2 years ago that I spent about a year with. Wonderful person here, local to Indianapolis, well known. Her name is Patty Prosser. She's a wonderful person, and really kind of helped me, I think, work through some things that I was trying to figure out and navigate. And she was wonderful. Just a really, really great leader and coach. And it's funny too, because just the other day I was talking to my husband about just all kinds of things, and a couple of my kids have therapists, and I'm a huge proponent. I feel like everybody should have one. But then Absolutely. I say that and I'm like, but I don't have one. Yeah. So I'm like, what about me? So everybody should have one except for me, because I'm too busy. And it's like, that is the problem inherently right there, Amy. Always. So now it's on my list. And not like the list that I'm not going to get to, but the list I'm actually going to get to.
Yes.
To find myself a therapist, I think, to just, again, because we go, we take care of everybody around us, especially women, particularly working moms. We're juggling 100%. All the things. And I mean, everybody's juggling things, right? So I think that's not just working moms, but we all juggle a lot. It's so important
though. It's so important. And when you think about it, is a lot of times when people come to me, we talk about inner versus outer change, right? And a lot of times when people come to me, it's here's my goals. And I'm like, well, that's great. You want the title, you want the promotion, those are the external things that you can see. But we have to start with the foundation first. And what starts to happen, these breakthrough moments with my clients, is when we start around the inner work, that is where the lasting transformation lives. Because I joke with them all the time. I'm like, sure, you can pack up a suitcase right now and pack it up and say, I'm going to go to this new place. I said, but you're packing the suitcase with the same mindset, the same energetic blocks, the same limiting beliefs, the same tiredness that you have right now. And I was like, you're just going to recreate the same thing in a new setting. I said, so how about we actually work and get to the heart of what it is that you want out of life and the root of what you're seeking? And then what starts to happen is your outer world starts to match, because you're then going to be this aligned individual who has boundaries, who does focus on their wellness, who really truly is going to say, here's who I am, and I'm not going to compromise now on this. And next thing you know, you're going to attract the right people, the right relationships, the right work, because you are saying, this is what I know. And now I'm not going to compromise that. And I love watching when that happens. That's my absolute favorite. And that is the type of coach I am. I'm like, hold on a second. Nope. Don't get in this car with me unless you're ready to transform your life. Like, this is what we're doing in here. So it's my most favorite thing, honestly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's go back to the name. Tell me how you came up with the name for your coaching business.
So it's funny because it came to me as I was studying the energy healing work. So the system that I learned and what I do is Seshen energy healing. And people are very familiar with Reiki, and Reiki uses the geometric symbols to help balance the chakra system. Seshen also uses symbols, and it basically it's more powerful. It goes where it needs to. So it works on the level of the soul. It works on the level of the body to really help with energetic blocks. And it's a coaching energy. And so it's funny because as I was studying it, the name came to me because I saw the blue lotus, and it spoke to me because I was like, the lotus is such a badass flower because it has to grow through mud. It's such a resilient. Yes. It's so resilient. And that spoke to me because I was like, this is everything I'm doing right now. I'm battling the same things everybody else does with, imposter syndrome, with, challenges in life. And I've always come out of it stronger. And that was a sort of a credit to myself in that moment, and that self-love to say, actually, Marci, you're an extremely resilient person, and you are going to be able to turn around and help others that, really need it. And so the name just stuck. Yeah. And I was like, that's what I want for my business, and for people to know that, resilience in life shows up in many different areas, and people are actually a lot stronger and more badass than they give themselves credit for a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's right. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now running this business, or with obviously no proprietary details, no client names, but I'm just curious, like what's going on right now that's got you maybe keeping you up at night?
I think that competitiveness that I have within myself. And so I've had to work on my mindset and my reframing of thoughts. And the biggest thing that I push myself to do is not compare myself, this comparisonitis game that we get ourselves into, because sometimes you're comparing somebody's chapter 12 to your chapter 2. It's like, look, I'm on chapter 2, you're on 12. Like, we're not going to compare the two. So I work very hard to make sure that I remember that what I'm building is something that I want to last. And I'm not looking for this like quick, fix or this quick overnight sensation. I'm building something transformational. So that patience, that inner calm that I help my clients with, I do the same for myself every day. Every day I work on that balance of, Marci, you left the corporate America grind for a reason. So don't do that to yourself. Don't impose that onto yourself, because that's the reason you walked away. So
you mentioned a few minutes ago, imposter syndrome. It is another one of those terms that I'm like, I know everybody. It's like
everybody hears.
If I hear seat at the table one more time, Marci, I'm going to pull my
seat
hair
at
out.
the table?
I can't even deal with it. I'm about to throw that fucking chair away. I can't take it. I can't. One more HR person says seat at the table, we're going to do something about it. I don't know what we're going to do.
Seat at the table was my most favorite. That and executive presence. If I heard executive presence one more time, I was literally going to flip a desk. I was like, this is the day.
Yeah, this is the day. Today's it. But I do want to talk about imposter syndrome. And while I think I actually love that this, even though I'm kind of, tongue-in-cheek, these terms annoy me sometimes because they get overused. There is a reason that they're overused. And I understand the concept behind them. And I myself have dealt with imposter syndrome. And maybe, and by the way, just because you've dealt with it doesn't mean it doesn't creep up again tomorrow. Like, it's just, you can't predict it.
It's constant.
I want to talk about how you've experienced that and how you personally have overcome that.
So oddly enough, I'm actually writing a reflective journal and workbook around imposter syndrome because of the fact that I've dealt with it so often, and I watch the way it shows up. And for the record, it shows up even in the most successful people that you think. There's always this voice in the head that's, going to come in, and it's either comparisonitis or I could do everything on my own, or it shows up in different ways. And I think the best thing to do is try to reframe the thought, because the imposter syndrome thought was going to come in, and it comes in like all sorts of negative, right? It's always like, oh, well, who am I to do this? And, I'm not. And so I play a game with it. I turn it into a game. I'm like, all right, this is the voice that's coming in. So I challenge it and I say, who am I not to? Who am I not to do this? I have years of experience, not just in professional life, but in my personal life, where I've experienced a crossroads in my life. I've experienced difficult times. I've had to be resilient. I've had to pick myself off the ground from a personal perspective. Like, I went through a divorce and it was really difficult for me. And I look at those moments and I say, I absolutely have something to offer. I absolutely have life experience or something that I've been able to work through that somebody else might need help with. And everybody on this planet does too. Every single one of you. And that's what's amazing, is that we're all very unique individuals. And the more we remind ourselves of that and we stop comparing, it should look like, no, it doesn't. What it has to look like is what it feels right for you. How does that show up for you? And how can you truly find evidence against that negative mindset? Because you do have evidence against it.
Yep, absolutely. These are like topics that are so, so important. And I'm trying to introduce them actually right now to I have 4 daughters. My youngest 2 are twins that are 15. And we're talking a lot these days about, and in fact, I was saying this to another girlfriend, is if not me, then who? Or why not me?
Why not
And we
you?
talk a lot about, the things we say to ourselves, would you say to a friend, right?
Exactly.
Like, why would you allow yourself to say that to yourself without grabbing it, like you said, and reframing it? So when a negative thought comes in, like they're going to come, you can't stop them, but you can like grab them and say, I don't think so.
Yes.
It's practice,
every day.
right?
It's honestly every day. And I love the story around, like everybody has the good wolf and the bad wolf inside, right? And it's like, who are you going to feed? That's it. You're going to feed the bad wolf, or you're going to feed the good wolf, because, that negative thought is going to come up. You just don't feed it. And that's what I see is the people that are truly the ones that persevere in life and they push through. And I don't know any inventor or anybody who's done anything in life that has nailed it on the first try, right? They've dealt with opposition. They've dealt with hard times. The difference is they've picked themselves up and said, I'm not listening to that negative voice that says I can't do it. Yes, I can. And they just barrel right through it. And that's ultimately how you can overcome that imposter syndrome, is with evidence against it. And anytime that voice comes up, you just have to reframe and say, actually, nah, not listening to you today. You want to know why? Because I have plenty of evidence to show that I'm amazing and unique and cool. And there's people out there who will resonate with me.
And I'm qualified, right? Or whatever the word is.
Yes.
My husband and I started watching Starting Five on Netflix. This is about the NBA. And at first I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this with my husband. Okay, he's going to make me watch the basketball thing. I am obsessed. I love this show. What I love about it is it goes back to what you're talking about, is you see a mindset that then, and these high paid, but highly talented people. I'll use SGA as an example. It's like, wow, if you think about his story, who just won a championship last year with Oklahoma, so pretty incredible. But talk about the self-doubt, or like what he could have listened to that, right? What everybody around him was saying. He didn't have some of the opportunities that others did. And not just him, people that are very highly successful in a lot of different fields. This is just one example in the NBA, but they're in every industry and field and every level. It's like, you see these people that are, it's just a mindset. They just don't.
It is.
They will not accept that they could possibly not be the best.
Yes.
Period.
That's honestly what you just said is what it is, which is why I joke and say, like, we're not talking about mystical things. It's the same thing with affirmations and manifesting the life that you desire. You just have to so radically believe in it and embody it and show up every day as that version of yourself that you know you can be. How do they show up in life? What do they say? How do they hold themselves? How do they dress? What's their diet? Who are the people they surround themselves with? Because that's part of it too, is when you're doing mindset work, you also need to do a very deep audit of your life and say, how am I showing up in the world and who am I allowing around me to reinforce the life that I want? And a lot of times what happens, because I coach people around this, and sometimes people will come to me who are at a crossroads, even in their relationships. And I'm like, there's a misalignment because you know that that's not somebody that's bringing value to your life, to quality to your life. And those are the people, to your point, they have those types of people around them and they start to say, snip, snip. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the weirdest experience in my 20s. I was out in Overland Park, Kansas. I was working for the NCAA. I'd went out there for the job knowing we were going to move the headquarters back to Indianapolis. So I was out there for 9 months. But when I went out there, I'm young. I mean, this is my first like job. I meet somebody, and I was talking at the time about the person I was dating, who happens to be my oldest daughter's father. He's deceased now, but at the time, I was in and out with him. I'm in my early 20s. I can't cut it off. And I knew it wasn't good for me. And I remember her asking me a question about him and about us, and me saying, oh, I don't know. And she said to me something so like not powerful in terms of the words, but they just stuck with me clearly to the point that I'm talking about him 25 years later on a podcast, or maybe 27 years later, whatever. She said to me, Amy, sometimes when people say, I don't know, they really do.
You do.
And I was like, ooh, it just hit me like a ton of bricks because she was so right. I absolutely knew. I just was not accepting it.
You just weren't listening.
I wasn't listening to myself. I knew the answer. I had it already inside of me.
I see that quite often. And I say this all the time. I've kind of made this a little bit my little mantra. And I say this every day. I said, your ego will resist. The ego mind resists because the ego wants to keep you comfortable and safe. But your soul will insist. It'll push you. It'll nudge you. You know. And a lot of times this is not a capability issue. This is a permission issue that I see quite often. You are absolutely capable of making these decisions for yourself. Sometimes you just need to give yourself permission to make that leap. You know what's right for you. You feel it energetically. And that's it. It's just reconnecting to that intuition again. It speaks to you. And the mind is what keeps you in that loop. And so that's what I do with my clients a lot. It's like, we have to get out of the mind because the mind is keeping you stuck in this loop. It's like that energy is speaking to you and saying to you exactly that point. This person's not right for you. You feel it. You feel it. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not, you don't know. You do know.
It's not that you do. You absolutely
You're just not giving
know.
yourself permission to
100%.
Which is exactly what you said.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm getting coached today. Marci, thank you. I love this session that I'm getting right now.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's why I said to you, it was very clear to me that it was time for me to do this the way I wanted to. Again, it wasn't a capability. I know I'm capable. I had to just give myself permission.
That's right. And you did. And you did. And here you are. I want to tell me about, without obviously names or anything, but tell me about a story or an experience that one of your clients have had that has been transformative. That's what the business you're in. And I know that there's probably all of them that have had, you've got stories for all of them, but tell me one that kind of resonates with you. Yeah.
I think about this client often, and she's just crushing it now. And brilliant. When we say brilliant, like on paper, you look at it and you're just like, badass, right? Just total, just amazing person in terms of life experience, work experience. And what happened was that she didn't need me to help with some of the work aspect, because the decision she was making and how she was showing up professionally, she was the SME in terms of what she was doing. She just years of experience. But what I started to witness with her is that spark. There was just nothing there. It was like just going through the motions in life. It's like, yeah, I get it. And I just started calling her out on it. I said, but again, like, what is it that you want out of life? Who are you in the world? And I said, take work out of it. Let's talk about you personally. And we uncovered a lot around people pleasing, around just, again, this need to feel that they're performing versus actually showing up the way they want to. And so we did some really deep inner work. And when the aha moments came around, wow, I do need to actually set better boundaries, or I am more capable than I realized, that's where that inner alignment started coming. And next thing you know, she's looking at her external environment and the world that she's in, and she's like, this isn't where I want to be anymore. I don't like this. And so because we radically focused on the inner aspect first, she then was able to make this professional move, and she got a promotion externally. She got this amazing job. She has work-life balance now, because when she went to get that offer, I was like, well, how are you going to accept that offer? What are you going to talk about? What's important to you? She asked for every single thing she wanted this time, and she got it. All because she did that in her work. And she's like, wow, I actually need to be my own best advocate here. I need to show myself that I have the courage to make difficult decisions. And oh my God, she's thriving in life now. She's just
Do you
crushing it.
find that you work with men and women? So I'm
Yes.
curious about your perspective on this. You've coached men and women at all different levels of organizations. But I have a personal experience where I might have talked about this on the show before. I can't remember, but years ago, I worked at a company. It was a private company. It was bought by a large publicly traded company in life sciences. Loved it. Great company, great leaders. I will never forget, at the time, my COO, her name is Lori Ball. Lori is a fantastic leader, somebody I still stay in touch with and admire and have just looked up to pretty much my whole professional career. And I'll never forget her stopping by my office one day and saying, are you going to ask for that promotion that you deserve it? You've been working towards it. And I said, oh, no, I'm going to wait for her to see that I'm doing all this great work. I'm not, part of it was like, I didn't want to toot my own horn. Part of it was I'm in HR. So I kind of felt like I had this internal knowledge, which is so bizarre, but I'm telling other people, nobody's going to care about your career more than you. You have to advocate for yourself and ask for what you want and what you deserve. But yet I was not willing to do that for myself. I was going to sit back and wait for it to happen for me. And when she walked by my office and said that to me that day, planted that seed, I took it home and I just stewed over it. Like, okay, maybe I should say something. I've been doing the work. Like I know I'm ready. And so the next day I'm going to do it. And I went into her office and I gave the whole spiel. I felt like I talked for 15 minutes. And at the end of the conversation, I just was kind of saying all the things I felt like I needed to say. She's kind of pushed a paper over on her desk to me and said, yeah, I completely agree. And I was absolutely thinking the same thing. And she already had the letter.
She already had
I was like, so she let me sit there for 15 minutes, like going through the spiel of, which is exactly what she should have done.
I was just going to say, kudos to her for letting you do that, because you did need to do that.
Totally. That's Ann Onan, by the way. Ann Onan, another friend and previous boss, mentor, a wonderful human. I love that she let me do that. I didn't love it in the moment. In the moment, I'm like, of course, you had that letter sitting over there for 10 minutes and you let me go through this whole script. But of course, looking back, it was a brilliant move. It was exactly what I needed to do and what she knew I needed to do. Of course, I got that promotion, which was very, I deserved it, but I needed to go ask for it myself and advocate for myself. Yes. And I think that's something that getting back to my question with that story is, do you see that's mostly with women? Do you see that with men too? Why do I see that?
I see that with men too. I've coached a lot of veterans, for example, who are transitioning out of active duty service into the corporate world. And I do see that they often struggle with that a little bit. Which I understand, right? It's because they're stepping into this unknown, but mostly in women. Like I literally created a coaching program. It's called Rise. And the coaching program is to assist women.
That is crazy.
Yes.
You and we're just connected because
we are.
Also have been working on a women's coaching and I called it Rise Work. And See, this is why we're here, Marci.
We're here.
This is that energy work, that universe working together. I love this.
It's so true. And I created an entire workbook and journal for it because women, really respond well to reflection after the fact. And so, yes, it still shows up. It's still like finding that voice that's in there and overcoming that fear of just advocating for yourself. Because even if it doesn't necessarily work out exactly the way that you hoped, you're showing yourself that, no, wait a minute, I'm going to place a bet on myself and I'm going to speak up. And that's really ultimately what it is. So I created that program for a reason because it shows up very often at all levels. I see as well.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. This is so fun. Tell me where, I know you're 9 months in. Yeah. Tell me where you're headed. What do the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months look like for you and for Seshen Coaching?
I have such big dreams. And so I need to practice my own way of alignment and making sure that I'm slowing down before I speed up, because my creative brain is on fire now. I've written 2 reflective workbooks and journals. I'm writing something around imposter syndrome. I'm writing a book as we speak around leadership and how it's evolving and where it's going in the coming years. And I see myself absolutely having a center someday. Like I see myself working back in the veteran space and assisting veterans with healing and, helping assist them with their transition back into the, just the world, corporate, wherever, how that shows up. And I see myself really assisting leaders and how they're showing up and doing a lot of inner work with them. So I'm leaving myself open to how that manifests and just saying, here's what I know I can offer the world. And I'm just going to not, for once in my life, not have this giant sheet where it's like 25 goals. I'm just going to say, you know what? What do I want to do today? And just be in the moment. Today I'm on an amazing podcast. And that's what I'm doing today. And then later I'm looking at my book and I'm going to start editing it. That's what I'm doing today. And then I'm just going to let the rest unfold because I'm so passionate about what I do that how about I allow that passion to start to create, and what that looks like, I'm completely open to.
Yeah, I love that. Love that so much. A couple quick questions and then we're going to wrap. I want to know, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All day.
It's just Starbucks and I are just, it's bad.
Yeah, I hear you. You're a reader? Are you a reader?
I love to read.
Yeah. Okay.
So many books on my bookcase that.
So tell me, like, what's a recent favorite, or just like a solid go-to that you would recommend?
So right now it's so funny because I'm reading a book called Good Energy.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm reading Outlive.
Oh yeah.
Which
yes, this is the Outlive. Is this the guy that's also, is this the doctor that talks about women?
Yep. Peter Adam.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, yes. I only know this because I recently got all my hormones tested, and now I'm on this like
geeking out over that. And then I started the Thinking Slow and Moving Fast. So this is my problem, is because I can read a book, like I'll rip through a book in like 2 days if it's really amazing. And so I'm laughing right now because I'm like, Marci, you have 3 books that you're, but I love it. And I love to write. So I'm a writer as well. I do have a blog for Seshen, and I blog on medium.com. And I was like, well, again, like this is something that I love to do. So why not explore it? So writing is the other outlet for me.
I love that. I love that. How can guests, listeners connect with you and learn more about your services and your company, and maybe get coaching services with you?
Yes. So I have an Instagram page. You can find me on Instagram at Seshen Coaching. I have a website, which is www.seshencoaching.com. So find me on either two. And my email address is listed. You can drop me an email. I offer a free consult call. So it's funny because I put it on for 45 minutes, but if we really get into it and you really want to tell me more about yourself, like I've ended up on those calls for like an hour with a client. So this way I'm here, it's just because I want to learn more about you. So I'm the coach that's going to get under the hood to say, no, really, what is it that you need me for? And I don't like you said, it's not just about the transaction. It's got to be quality.
I love that. Yeah. For those that are listening, don't have an Amy Graves moment where when you first meet Marci and you're like, ooh, Seshen Coaching, I'm going to look this up. And you type in Seshen, Session. That is not it, ladies and gentlemen. It is Seshen Coaching. Let me spell it for you. Seshen. Yes. Seshen Coaching.
You got
Marci,
it.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. It's been such a great time. I think you've got a world and a wealth of experience and knowledge that you are going to just bless every person that hops on a phone with you and spends time with you. And I just feel like this was my introductory call, and I'll be calling you later to get on so we can do this, because I need this in my life. Yeah. And I see the value of it like wholeheartedly. So thanks again for being it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone deserves it. Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I'm happy to come back. We can chat all things HR. I feel like our HR stories are they're fun.
For those who are listening, we are gonna, Marci and I and our friend Latoya, we're chatting about a little HR series, HR Misfit series that we're going to add to the People of Work show. So more to come on that soon. Marci, that's going to be awesome.
Oh, we're going to have tons of fun. People will really see our personalities. It'll be great.
Right. They might love or hate us. We'll see. All right. Bye, friend.
Thank you so much, friend.
Yeah. See ya. Thanks for tuning in to the People of Work. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow along and share it with someone who'd love these stories too. Do you or someone you know have a unique job or an inspiring work journey? I'd love to hear about it. You can find me on Instagram at The People of Work or visit thepeopleofwork.com. And if you're navigating a career transition or just need support in your work life, I'm here for that too. From personal coaching to leadership and HR consulting, I'd love to help. Head to thepeopleofwork.com to learn more and get in touch. Until next time, thanks for being a part of The People of Work.